Hi everyone, it's Jeff from Avada here. Welcome back. This is part 2 of the Building a Website from Scratch with Avada video course. This course is aimed at both beginners and more intermediate users, and in it I show you how to use the Avada Website Builder to create a complete website from scratch. If you haven't watched part 1, please follow the link below and watch the series from the start. And make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel to keep up with all the latest videos like this one. And if you don't want to miss one, click the bell icon to get notifications of all new videos on our channel. Okay, let's begin. In the first video in this series, we started with some basic pre-build preparations by developing a style guide based on a design brief. Then we used the Avada Setup Wizard to set the typography, colors, plugins, header and footer, and initial pages. In this video, we are going to set some options and upload our project assets, and then we will customize the header and footer the Setup Wizard created. It'll take some work to get these just right, but you only need to do it once, as these will apply to the whole site. So let's get started by uploading all the required assets for this project into the media library. If you want to follow along with this project, there is a link below the video if you want to download these project assets in a zip file. Some of the files I want to upload are SVG files. And while the Setup Wizard accepts SVG files, by default WordPress doesn't allow SVG uploads into the media library. But Avada has a solution for that, and so I just need to open up the global options and head to the Performance tab and set SVG Media Upload to enable. I'll just save these changes. And now I'll open the media library and upload my assets. I'll be back in a sec. Okay, now my assets are all uploaded. There's one more thing I want to do before beginning. I'll just go back to the Avada dashboard and into Options, Builder Options, and set my builder preferences. First up, I'm going to set this first option called Builder Auto Activation to Live Builder. This will mean that the Live Builder is my default interface when I edit a page or post. And then down near the bottom here, I'm going to set the Remove Empty Attributes option to On, which will reduce the code base of this site a little, which in turn will help a little bit with performance. I'll just save those options. You might think it's smart to go through the Avada global options at this point as well and set some defaults. You can do that of course, but I prefer to just change global options as needed. When building a website, you will of course need to go through the WordPress settings to set your permalinks, time zone, and other settings. We're not going to cover all of that in this video as this is core WordPress business, and there are a lot of resources available about them online. If you need help with this, I'll add a few links below the video. I will, however, just go to Settings, Permalinks from the WordPress sidebar, and here I'll change the permalink setting to Post Name and save my changes. So now it's time to work on the header. Back on the home page, I'll just mouse over Edit Live here and select the header that we selected in the Setup Wizard. You can Command or Control click on it to open it in a new tab. If you didn't use the Setup Wizard, you would set your header and footer using Avada Layouts. Follow the link below to learn more about this integral feature in Avada. But basically, layouts are either global or conditional, and then you populate them with layout sections you designed for the header, page title bar, content or footer areas. In our case, the Setup Wizard created both a header and footer layout section and added it to the global layout. It's the header layout section we're editing here. I'm happy with the overall layout here, but I need to make some small adjustments. Okay, so let's have a look at how this header layout is constructed. We can use the navigator to get a clear idea of the structure. Okay, we have a 1/4 column with an image element in it at the left, displaying our logo. And then we have a 3/4 column with a nested column element. Within that, we have a full width nested column at the top with 2 buttons in it. And underneath that we have another nested column with a menu element and a button at the end independent of the menu. We have another 3/4 nested column under this, but this is not displaying on the page. And if I edit the column, we can see this is only visible for small screens. We will come back to this when we check the responsive design. Okay, let's start with the logo. This is an image element in a 1/4 column, but if I edit the image and look on the Design tab, we can see that this has an image max width value. This is usually a good idea, as with PNG logos you can insert a bigger logo and set the image max width here to be half the image size, thereby setting a retina logo which will be sharp and crisp. But I'm using an SVG logo here, which as it's a vector file resizes perfectly, and so I'll remove this value here. Yeah, that's better. Okay, with the top nested column on the right, we have two buttons. If I just come into Preview, I can see they have transparent backgrounds, so they look just like links. For this example, I won't bother changing details here, and I'm happy with the styling, so I will move on. The next thing I want to look at is the menu element. I'll just edit the nested column, and then the menu element. As we can see here, it has loaded the Avada setup menu, which was created by the setup wizard using the pages we selected. So there are two things I want to look at here: the menu itself and the styling of that menu with this element. Let's start by editing the menu, which can be accessed from Appearance, Menus on the WordPress sidebar. But I'll just click the Edit Menu button here, and our menu opens in a new tab. Okay, we have some good videos on creating menus, which I will link below the video, but here I just want to customize this one. To start, I'll rename it to Decorator Main Menu, and reorganize it a bit. I'll put Blog at the bottom, and I will remove Contact from this menu entirely, as I will use the button in the header layout to link to that page, so it can still display on medium and small screens when the menu itself goes into mobile mode. I'll also move Services up just under the home page. And now the last thing I want to do is add some sub-service pages. But I haven't created them yet, so let's just save this and quickly do that. So I will Control-click on Pages on the WordPress sidebar here, and that opens in a new tab. So here we can see the pages that we asked the setup wizard to add, including the WooCommerce shop pages, and there are also the privacy policy and the sample page that WordPress adds by default. For our example, I could trash these, but if this was a real site, we would want to edit and publish the policy docs, including the WooCommerce refund and returns policy. For this example though, we will just ignore the draft pages. I also have a few pages I just want to rename, so I will mouse over Blog and choose Quick Edit, and rename both the title and the slug to Articles, and then click on Update. I also want to rename the contact page to Get a Quote. The slug should be the same, just in lowercase and no spaces. Just use a hyphen instead. Okay, let's update that as well. Now I'll create the service subpages. I need to create 4 pages. They will be General Painting, Wallpaper Hanging, Metalworks, and Repairworks. I'll just quickly create these by clicking on Add New and adding my page titles. WordPress creates the slug automatically, and I might just select the Services page as their parent, mostly just for organization's sake. So now I'll just change the page setting to Publish and click on Save. And I'll just do the other pages. Okay, now we have all the pages we need for this project. You can just pause this video if you want to create your pages and keep up. Okay, so now let's come back to our menu and refresh the page. Here we can see the blog page is now called Articles. And if we look at pages in the Add Menu Items column, we can see we are on the Most Recent tab, and here we can see our 4 new pages. So I will select them and click on Add to Menu. I'll drag them up one at a time under Services, and indent each one of them a bit so that they become sub-menu items. Okay, that's our main menu sorted. So let's save the changes again, and head back to our header layout and refresh that as well. And now we can see it's using our new menu. If I edit the nested column and the menu element again, we can actually see on the General tab that there is no menu selected here. The element just loads the first one on the list by default, which by chance is our main menu, but I will select it here to lock that in. Now of course we could customize the styling of this menu as much as we want with this element, but I think I'm pretty happy with the way it looks. If I just check the Main tab and the main menu typography options, this grey colour on the options tells me it's using a global typography set, and if I mouse over it I can see it's using the lead set, a global typography set created by the wizard from the body font. I'll leave this for now, as if we want to make changes to the fonts, we are best off to do it in the sets, and we will look more at typography later. To learn more about the powerful menu element, check out the links below the video. Actually, one thing I could do here would be to add a mega menu to this menu. The 4 services pages would be a good option for that. The Avada Mega Menu Builder makes building mega menus pretty simple. Okay, so to start that, I need to make the mega menu. This is done from the Avada library. Let's just head there. I'll select Mega Menu as the library element type I want to create, and I'll call it Services Mega Menu and click on Create Library Element. Let's start by seeing if there's any Avada Studio menus I could use. There are a few different types of mega menus here, and I think this first simple one will be perfect for my site. So I'll click on that to get the import options, and just make sure local colors and placeholders are selected. I don't need the images here, and so I'll import that. I might just go to the navigator to see what we have here. So we have 4 nested columns in a 1-1 container, with further nested columns inside each nested column. I'll just edit the container first. That looks okay. I might just set 0 pixel padding all around though here, because there can be default padding on containers. Okay, let's just start with the first nested column. I'll open that and edit the image element here to add my own image. I want the painter image here, and I will add the thumbnail size. I'll set this as a 1:1 aspect ratio, and down in the image link URL options, I will link this to the general painting page. And on the design tab, I will make the image max width size to 75 pixels. Okay, that's good. Now I'll just edit the title. I'll add general painting as the title, and set the link to the page here as well. And on the design tab, I'll just set 0 pixel top margin. So now in the navigator, I'll clone this first column and move it down under the separator and delete the one underneath that. And I'll do that a couple more times for the other services. Now let's just save some time here, and I'll just go and edit those other ones in exactly the same way for the other pages and come back. Okay, so I've added my other links and saved this mega menu, so now it's time to assign it. You do that in the actual menu via the Avada menu options. So let's go back to our main menu and open the services link. I'll just open the Avada menu options, and the top option is mega menu. I'll just select my menu from there and save. Now this menu item already has subpages under it, but as we can see here from this label that has appeared, it's telling us that these will now only be used for small screens where mega menus don't work. So that's great. We can just leave these here. Alright, let's save this menu and come back to our header layout section. I'll just save and refresh and pop into preview mode, and now we can see our new mega menu. Cool. Okay, so now let's look at the button at the end here. I'll just come out of preview mode and edit the nested column and the button. I'll set the button URL to be the Get a Quote page, and I'll add Get a Quote as the button text. Okay, I think that's all we need here. Let's go to the Design tab. Here I can see this button has a custom style. I'll just see what a default button looks like. Yeah, I think that's too dark for the header, so I'll set this back to custom and style it a bit more. I'll just change the button gradient start and end colors to color 1, and down a bit further I will add a border, let's say 2 pixels all around. And I think I want square buttons on this site, so I will remove the border radius here. There's still some border radius, so that tells me there must be a default value for this. I'll just open the description, and yes, there's a 4 pixel default border radius. I could override that here, but as I said, I want square buttons everywhere on this site, so it makes more sense to click the cog icon here, which takes me to the global defaults for buttons. And I'll set the defaults to 0 pixels all around. Okay, let's come back to our button. I think the button here is still a bit big, so let's change that as well. The size is set to custom, and with that you can use padding to size it however you want. There are also preset sizes, but they change the font size as well. So I will just adjust the padding. Maybe just 10 pixels top and bottom. Yeah, that's a better size, and I'm happy with that button. I'll just close this nested column. Before we finish up here, let's just have a look at how this header works responsively. We will need to check all the elements, the logo, the menu, and the button. I'll just pop back into preview mode and switch to medium screen view. And here we can see it looks really good and much the same as the large screen view with the mega menu still active. So now let's switch to small screen view. The menu goes into mobile mode, but I can see a few issues here. For a start, the button is still visible, but it's a different button. Okay, so that reminds me that there is a mobile only column here. I'll come out of preview mode, and if we just look at the navigator, we can see those two 3/4 columns. If I edit the first 3/4 column here, we can see in the column visibility option that this is only visible for large and medium screens. And if I edit the second one, we can see it's only visible for small screens, and it's now highlighted on the page. So that's why I have another button that needs to be changed here. There are a few different ways to do this, but let's use the navigator. I'll just come back to the navigator and expand these nested columns so we can see all the elements. The button we have already edited is at the bottom of the first 3/4 column. And so here I can just click the clone element button, then move it down above the other button in the second 3/4 column, and then delete that second button. Okay, that's better. While we're here, we had better look at the mobile menu. I'll just go into preview mode again, and if we drill down to the services, we can see it's the normal menu items that are being displayed here instead of the mega menu. That's all good. But the menu looks a bit high on the page to me, and so I'll come out of preview and edit the nested column and the menu element, and go to the mobile tab. Now if I scroll down a bit here, there will be a bottom margin option. Here it is, mobile menu trigger bottom margin. I'll add some margin here to push that menu down from the trigger. About 35 pixels should be close. I'll just close this nested column and go to the preview mode to check it. Yeah, that looks better. Looking at the logo, I think that perhaps it could be a bit bigger here on small screens. I can achieve that by changing the size of the columns just in small screen view. Now remember, for the right column with the menu and the button, we have a separate small screen only column. If I edit the second one, I can see in the column visibility option that this is the one. So here, I'll just go to the Design tab and reduce this to a 2/3 column. Then I'll go to the 1/4 column. This column is used on all screen sizes, so here we can use the responsive options. If I go to the Design tab, we can see a small phone icon in some of the settings. That's the responsive options. And when you see this, it means you can change these options and it will only apply to the screen size that's showing. We are on small screen preview here, and so here I will change the size of this column to 1/3. Now the logo has some room to grow, and this change is only applied to small screen view. Okay, let's just come back to the large screen view here. Now responsive design can get a bit complex at times, but it's a really good example of why using studio content can speed up your workflow, as most of the hard work has already been done for you. Finally, before we finish up, let's just check if there are any animations on this header. It's possible that animation is applied to the elements, or either column or container. But in a header, the container is probably most likely, so it would all animate at once. I'll just check a column though. I'll go to the Extras tab and scroll to the very bottom, and no, there's no animation here. So let's look at the container and go to the Extras tab. I just need to scroll down a little, and there, the animation type's also showing none. So let's give this header container some subtle animation. I'll set it to fade, and I'll make the direction static, and with a speed of say 1 second. That should look good. Okay, that's it. Let's save our header layout. Let's now move to the footer layout. I'll just close this header layout section, and from the home page under Edit Live, I'll control-click the agency footer to edit that in a new tab. Okay, this is a nice footer, and so I won't need to make too many changes here. This background color is actually a gradient. If we edit the container and head to the Background tab and Gradient, we can see that there is a gradient applied here with a hard transition. I think I'm happy with that as is, and so I will move to the content. Okay, let's start at the top. I need to add my logo here, so I will open the nested column at the top, and I will add an image element. I have made an alternative logo that I'm going to use for the favicons, and I think that will work better in the footer than the main logo. So I'll just find that in the media library and add that. And on the Design tab, I'll just give it a 60 pixel right margin to separate it from the social icons. Okay, let's now delete that title next to it. Now next to this is a social links element. I won't worry about any links as we don't have any, but obviously for a real site you'd want to add your links here and remove any you didn't want. Instead, I'll just go to the Design tab and scroll down to the colors. I'm happy with the normal state colors, but on the hover state, I'll set the icon color to color 1, and the background color to color 5. There's no border, so we don't have to worry about the border color. Yeah, I like that better. And on the right-hand side of the nested columns, we have 2 buttons. Again, I won't worry about any details here, but let's adjust the design a bit. I'll edit the first one, and on the Design tab, we can see these have a custom style. So I'll just go to the hover colors, and I think I will change the start and end hover colors to be color 5. I'll also remove the border radius to make it match the others. Yeah, that's more the look I was after. I'll just do that to the other button as well. Okay, let's close this nested column now and move on. In the next column, we need to edit our title for a start. I'll just select that and paste my new title in. And I think that's all I need to do here. Now let's go to the button below. To start, I'll link this to the Get a Quote page and change the text to Get Started Today. On the Design tab, I can see this button also has custom styling, but here I think I'll just set the style back to default. And I will remove the border radius values here. Now on the right-hand side of this footer are 2 more columns with instances of the menu element. They are pulling 2 footer menus that were also created by the setup wizard. So for this example, I'm going to edit those 2 existing menus that the wizard made, and I'll basically split up the main menu into 2. In the first, I'll add all the parent menu items, and in the second one, I'll add the individual services. We've already looked at menus, so just give me a minute to do this. Okay, so I've edited 2 of the footer menus and saved and refreshed this page, and now the footer is reflecting my changes. Okay, at the very bottom of the footer are 2 more columns. On the right, there's a 3rd menu, but for this example, I will leave that as is. In the other column, there is a copyright notice, and if we edit that, we can see this is a simple text block element. But let me show you another way of doing this. Instead of plain text, I will click on the dynamic content icon. Here I want the date. I don't want the one under page, as that's just the published date of the page, but further down under other is date, and this is the general date. I'll change the format to be just Y, so just the year displays. And then in the before value, I'll add the copyright symbol and our company's starting year. Let's say 2019. Just a quick tip here, if you're on Windows and want the copyright symbol, just hold down the Alt key and type 0169. For Mac, it's the Option key plus the letter C. Okay, so then in the after value, I'll add a bit of text to display the rest of the message. This way, the year will update every year, and you'll always have an up-to-date copyright section in your footer. Okay, I'm happy with the footer now, but before we save it, let's just look at how it loads responsively. I'll just change to medium screen. Here it's much the same, just a bit more compact. And on small screens, everything sits underneath each other. Actually, a tiny thing, I might just edit the copyright text block and set the alignment for small screen only to right. Yeah, that works for me. I'll just come back to large screen and let's save this. And that's about it for this video. Our header and footer are now complete, and we can move on to the page content. In the next video in this series, we will build the home page. See you there. Okay, this concludes part 2 of our video on building a website from scratch with Avada. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel to keep up with all the latest videos. And if you have any questions or need assistance, please create a support ticket and our team will gladly assist you. As always, we want to thank you for choosing Avada.